It's a Survivor Rewind with Survivor Season 41's very own Tiffany Seely. She joins me now. I am pumped to be able to be catching up with you, getting to know what life's been like for you since the season aired almost 4 years ago now, which is crazy. So, Tiffany, how are you?
I'm doing great. I can't believe it's 4 years. That's actually insane. Every time I watch Survivor, there's like that feeling of, oh my God, like we were there. It's surreal. It doesn't like really even feel real. And then to think that it was 4 years ago is just crazy because that means I'm 4 years older, which, I mean, 29 is not terrible, but it's not the best.
Yeah.
And yeah, and watching the show, like seeing yourself in spots that you were there, it's pretty crazy. But life has been really good. I'm back to teaching, doing what I do, and enjoying some of the reality life afterwards because, there's a lot you can gain from it afterwards. And that's what we kind of all do.
No, I love that. Okay, so first of all, 4 years older, but also 4 years wiser. So let's not discount that. Yeah.
Okay.
So I want to take you back 4 years ago to kind of, let's say, pre-filming, if you will. So what's kind of interesting is that the season you were on, Survivor Season 41, was the first season that filmed post-pandemic. And obviously, it was kind of truly, actually, the onset of the new era, quote unquote, of Survivor. Everything changed. They changed the production logistics, the game logistics, everything we knew about Survivor essentially went on its head. So I'm curious,
Yeah.
as a contestant of that season, were you guys informed of any of those changes prior to filming, or did you find out everything as you were kind of moving and grooving through your time of filming?
Yeah, we didn't find out really anything except that it was going to be a 26-day season. That they like probably told us about, I think it was like 2 days before we were actually going out to film. We were at Ponderosa, obviously, at the pregame. And it had been such a long time. Remember, we were in quarantine for 2 weeks at the resort and then another like week before we actually played. So we almost were in quarantine and playing and quarantine and pregame as long as the game went. It was crazy. It was a lot. It was very like mentally taxing. And then they threw on us that it was going to be a 26-day season, of which we were not happy about because this is like our dream, right? We all want to play Survivor, and then they say it's a 26-day game. And we knew that there was going to be like changes, but we didn't anticipate in days. So that was the first, we had heard about it about 2 days before we went out. We were kind of bummed, I think, as a group, that is kind of like, oh, we don't get the full, as we thought, experience. But again, we were the new era. So we kind of knew something that was going to be different. As far as the twists and everything else, we knew nothing. Even going through the game, to be fair, when we got certain advantages, we didn't even understand them. And even the people who were watching us, like, who should know, didn't really fully understand it, had to go back to production and find out like what are the exact rules. And so it was really very new. We were sort of like the guinea pig season. And I would say that as hard as the game is to begin with, when you go in thinking you know the game and then being thrown into a 26-day game instead of, and no rice, like we didn't know that either. We found that out when we were on the islands. It was a lot to, digest and then have to play out. Right. So definitely a disadvantage for those people who considered themselves, very well schooled in Survivor. I, however, was a casual watcher. I was not a super fan like everybody else. I didn't know seasons. I didn't know players. I knew like five, like the ones that you would think you would know, Sandra and Rob and Wentworth and those people I knew, but like not these other players that everybody else knew everything about and knew what happens to you when you get down to three. You get Matt Singh. Didn't even know what that was. I was like, who is that? Like I had no idea. Right. But for me, it was sort of an advantage because I was now the same as everybody else in some ways because I knew strategy, but I didn't know like the ins and outs of how everything works. And so I kind of felt like that I was able to like take a little bit of a breath and be like, okay, so now I'm not that far behind everybody else. So it was definitely something that we were, flying the plane as we were playing, so
Yeah.
to speak, right?
Yeah. No.
Learning to fly, right?
Yeah.
So it was difficult for everybody, and people were pissed.
Yeah.
People were pissed.
Yeah. But you guys made it through. And it's interesting, too, because I do think something that was probably the most fascinating about that season is how much of guinea pigs you were. Because we even see, now being on 48, there's a lot of twists they've kept since season 41, and there's a lot they've gotten rid of. So it was definitely a guinea pig season. But another thing that really stood out to me about you specifically is although you did not win this season, you were a juror. And that's a pretty vital role, obviously, in kind of the overall ending of every season. So I'm curious kind of about your overall jury experience. Tell me about what it was like being a juror, Ponderosa, how you kind of decided who you were going to vote for, all those important things.
So, when I first got voted out at that moment, I was so freaking pissed. I was like, what the hell? Because at the moment, I didn't really have anything but myself to offer as a number. And it was kind of early still, I felt, to get rid of somebody who wasn't really that much of perceived as a threat. But I guess because we had pulled off a big move earlier, that being voted off now, hindsight, I was like, oh, I see that maybe it was too threatening um, of a move at the moment. But once I realized that I was like the queen of Ponderosa, I was like, oh, wait, this is not so bad. And I'm going to get a hamburger? Like, are you kidding? So, having been like the first voted off and at least making it to jury, I was super happy and proud of that because I didn't want to be the older person playing the game. And I don't think I came off as that. I don't feel like I did. I mean, maybe people thought I was like that older mom type, but I don't really feel like I did. And it was just a good spot to land for me because maybe there's more to my story and maybe I'll be, memorable. And then, like, what is it going to be like being at Ponderosa, right? That was going to be like a whole new thing. It's a whole nother part of the game, right? It's another game within the game. So being voted off, like once you get through the initial like shock and horror of being voted off and knowing you're going to eat, getting to Ponderosa was like super exciting. It's very welcoming and everyone's excited to see you as far as like the people that were there for you before you went out and you're eating and you're happy. But then you realize like, holy crap, I have to make a big decision going forward. And all these people are going to be coming in and I'm sort of responsible for them coming in, right? They're going to come in, they're going to be super upset, which is what happened. We had a lot of very unhappy customers. And it was sort of my job to kind of wrangle them and make light of it. And I did that. I'm best at that. And continue forming the relationships and seeing what's happening in the game after I left. Because it's very hard to vote when you're not in it, knowing what's exactly happening, right? So you sort of have to like piece together from going to tribal and from what people say once they come into Ponderosa, you're sort of piecing together what's going on there. I had a good feeling of who was going to be next and what it was going to look like. But of course, you're not there. You don't know the twists. And we didn't know the twists and what was going to happen next. So that was super exciting and fun, kind of. But also, like just navigating Ponderosa, like all of a sudden you're like in a bed and you're showering. And it's just a very strange transition. But it was also busy. I was doing the Ponderosa videos. We still had those at the time. Mine was pretty freaking fun. So go watch it if you haven't. Um, and I wish they'd bring that back. That was super fun to see, right? And Ponderosa is just like this responsibility that you don't really think about when you're going to play Survivor. You don't think about Ponderosa. You think about how am I going to last another day? But once you're at Ponderosa, it's like, how the hell am I going to navigate these people right now? They're so angry. There's a lot of emotion and disappointment, and just all of it comes down all at once. And that's kind of how it feels. You've all of a sudden have this like huge thing. You're out in Survivor. You're playing the game, and all of a sudden it's done. It's like you cut. It's like quitting smoking. It's all over. Like, and now what? Right? Like now what do I do? And thank God, and I know Evie wouldn't say this, but thank God Evie was like very close, with me the next day in this year because we just had the best time out there. We just really enjoyed so much being there together. And then it was like our own little party until the next person comes in. And then it starts to get a little heated because those people are getting even closer to the end. So they're even more pissed. So that's what it's kind of like. And what specifically would you like to know? Because there's like a lot that goes into that.
No, I think that's really good. I think, specifically with voting at the end, it is so interesting because I think, we're always maybe curious how people vote the way they do, but we don't always get to hear from, the jurors on why they voted that way. You obviously voted for Erica, who did win that season, but Xander was obviously kind of near you kind of earlier on in this season. So maybe just tell me, like what went into you deciding to vote Erica? And I know this has been a lot of time has passed now, but I am still curious kind of what went into your specific decision making.
So me specifically at the time, I think it would be a lie to say that people aren't voting with emotion when they're voting. I know everyone wants to say, oh, we're voting for who played the best game. Of course you are. And anybody who's at the end played the better game than you did. That's just a fact. But the feelings and the emotions, you can't take that out of the people. And depending on who's coming in and at what stage and how long you've been at Ponderosa together and what types of conversations you've had, anything can really happen. And I think in that season, Erica became very, very obviously a winner type to us because one, she sort of survived in the middle, kind of. Oop, sorry. I'm sorry, sorry, sorry. So she was sort of able to navigate both sides, like like the people who came from all the other, tribes that merged to her whole group of people who she was lucky enough to have not got to tribal and able to be there with them. So she was sort of had a shield like that anyway. And being, a woman and being the season we were in with the whole new, BIPOC and everything, that was important to us. And I think it was important to honor that. And I think that's what we did. And her having to go on that thing by herself overnight, like that was a big deal to have to go navigate that by yourself and be able to make it to the end the way she did. She played a smart game. She really she wasn't on anybody's radar. And as far as like why I thought she won, why I thought she should win was kind of because it was wrapped up in a little emotion, I'm not going to lie. And it was also the idea that she did last as long as she did. She was sort of what she said she was, a sheep in wolf's clothing, and sort of went with that as her game. And it was her game. So I think that having voted her for me was the right move. If you take us out of there and have us revote, a couple months down the road, would that be different? That would be interesting to see. I don't know. Is that something that they should consider? Give the contestants a month to like calm down because everyone's really angry. There were a lot of people that were up in arms that Xander didn't win. And we were up in arms that we didn't get to the final three with him when we had so many advantages going in and could have really pulled it off, So there was that. He was a great player, and hindsight, could have won easily. But at the time, she made sense. And, I think that she played that game very quietly and stealthily, and she won. And that was really, I felt that she had my vote. And I could only speak for myself. And obviously, when you saw how everybody else voted, and we talked about it, but I'm not going to lie, it wasn't heavily discussed amongst ourselves. We could have talked about it, and we did. We talked, with each other about what was happening through the game. But who we were specifically voting for wasn't really discussed amongst ourselves. So, like, we were just as surprised as everybody else because we voted on who we personally really thought should win. So that was the sentiment. Obviously, it was the largest of all. And that's how she pulled it off.
Yeah.
So that's how we ended there, and Deshaun, I mean, looking back now, also played a great game. I love the guy. I mean, I would love to give each of them $1 million, but it had to come down to one person, and she seemed to make the most sense at the time.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Something you said that stood out to me at some point in this conversation was mentioning Evie. And I know the two of you had a great relationship while you were on this show. So it does lead me to ask, like, are you still close with Evie today? And also, where do you stand with maybe some of your other cast members? Like, are you still close with your cast, or what are your relationships like with them?
Yeah. So Evie, of course, I'm super close with Evie. We are super tight. She comes and sees me. They come and see me. My apologies. They come here to see me, and we hang out, and I love them to death. So Evie and we will have an unbreakable bond for life. That's just the truth. I'm super close with Sydney. I'm super close with Abraham, who I love. He just wrote me today. He's coming to New York for the Bryson Wendell, and like, let's go out to lunch. And so I'm very close with him. And I would be remiss to say that, I'm super close with Sarah, super close with Voce. These are my people I speak to often, right? So almost more than half the cast. And really, as Shan writes me, we write a lot. My son goes to school like up the block from where she lives. So I have a pretty tight relationship with a lot of people from our season, and would be remiss to say that I didn't love most of them, if not all. And when we see each other, it's like family that it's immediate. It's an immediate bond that will never like go away ever. But I am on a regular talking basis. I spoke to 4 out of the 5 people I just mentioned just 5 minutes ago. So that's how close we are still. Yeah.
No, I love that, and that's great to hear. So, I know we mentioned it's been 4 years and 7 seasons since you were on Survivor, but I am curious, and you kind of touched on this briefly at the beginning, but in what ways would you say that being on Survivor really impacted or maybe even changed your life kind of post the show coming out and you becoming this reality star in a sense?
Yeah. So that's interesting because I think we all feel the same way. Like you have this almost like this immediate fame for the moment, and it's such a, I like to call it like D-list fame, like, it's reality TV. But somehow reality TV has really like boomed in the last few years. And that comes with some like jealousy because we weren't allowed to do a lot of things that these Survivor players are allowed to do post show. We were scared for our life to even comment online. I remember Chrissy Hoffbeck wrote me, and I was so afraid to answer her because like we weren't supposed to talk to anybody. But meanwhile, at these parties, there all the new Survivor players are there. Everyone's part of this big social media push. Even CBS is part of it. Like it's become rather normal. And when we were out there, and we came home, it was very hush hush. We can't say anything. We didn't even have a viewing party. We did it ourselves in Chicago. So that was it's kind of a downer that it's gone this far, and it was only 4 years ago, but it would have been great to be part of this big social media push, but we didn't have that. We sort of lost out on a lot of things, I feel like, but we gained a ton. So, you know, being this person who was on this massive show that everybody, knows people who watch, right? Somebody knows somebody who watches it. And having these connections with people that I would never speak to in life before reality TV, right? It opens a lot of doors for you in that way. Um, you don't want to be the person who like makes it your whole life, right? Your whole personality. But it does add such a fun, I don't know, it opens up doors of like things that you would never do, going into the city, going to these premiere parties, meeting people that, from other reality shows and going to other parties. And you just get a lot of new friends and connections. And it makes life exciting, especially for somebody who's going to be 52 years old and is a mom of kids who are one who's graduated college already, the other's is going into his junior year. Like they don't really want that much to do with me, and it's like you reinvented yourself, and now I'm like, they find me super cringy. So like, there's that, but it's just part of who I am now. And it is part of my personality and it is part of my everyday conversation because I'm always doing something or, oh God, sorry. I'm always doing something or hearing about something that I'm invited to. And it's a lot of fun. If you let it be. You could also get caught up in the like, oh, this person's doing this and I wasn't invited to that. And there's a lot of that. There's like that fear of missing out. Like you're missing something that other people are doing. Why were you not asked? Like there's definitely that. And I think for the younger folks, that's probably tough because you never know who's going to blow up. Like one person might think they come home from the show and they're going to be like given the worst edit. And the next minute you're like a superstar. So you just don't know. And so it's really what you make of it, right? Somebody like you asks me to do a podcast. I'm going to jump on that. I want to do that. I want to talk to, people who are interested in the game like that. They're interested in me. They think I'm somebody special of any kind. Like I'm going to make an effort to be there for that person and to do that stuff because that's really, my goal in life. If I would have won the $1 million, I would have helped a lot of people. That's what I wanted to do. So why not? Like I'm a nobody. I was just on a Survivor. I was on a show. That's a big deal. And I get to do this. So it's what you make of it. And I've made nothing but happiness, friendships, and joy out of it. And sure, there's going to be disappointed. Who's going on season 50? Is there going to be a return this season? Am I on that list? Like you could drive yourself nuts. So that can be really difficult for folks. I mean, it can be difficult for me at moments, but I have a little bit more resilience and age behind me that I know what's important in life. And this is just a bonus. So that's really the truth.
And I think that's a really positive outlook because I think, like you said, I think, I've never been on reality TV, but I think getting caught up in that world can be really damaging to a lot of people, actually. And so I think it's like your approach to it is great. And it also shows that life is never really over for you. I don't think you are old at all, so don't think I'm saying that. But like to be 52 and have this beautiful outlook and really like genuinely feel like you've reinvented yourself, I think is such a gift that not everyone necessarily gets. So I think this is like hopefully going to be really helpful for a lot of people out there. Also, just to put it out there, I was thinking back when you were talking there a second ago, I'm pretty sure. So we do like a preseason, like, winner pick every year, and then you can switch at merge and you can switch at the finale. Anyway, you actually were, I'm pretty sure and I'm not just saying this, you were my winner pick initially at the beginning of the season for 41. So that like, this has been a long time coming for me. So I'm pretty excited about it. But something else, we've talked about 50, or you just mentioned 50 and, that's obviously a big thing out there for people right now. But for you in general, whether it's 50 or or 60 or 55 or whatever the season is, would you be interested in playing again? Where do you stand on that?
You will not find, I think you'd be hard pressed to find any Survivor player, no matter what they say, that would not want to go back. It is like some kind of drug. I don't even know what they put in that or why we need more of it, but it's this thing that you just want to go back so bad. It's like having, I don't know, it's like having an experience of a lifetime and then maybe being able to have it again. It's almost like so unrealistic, but at the same time could happen. Like, I can't even believe I was on a season to begin with. And then, like, to be on a second season, of course I want to go back. I would do things differently. That's what you say. Starve me again and let me see it. And also, I'm thinner, so I know body positivity, blah, blah, blah. But it would be nice to look a little better on national TV. You can cut that. But like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm in better shape than I was even when I went out there, because I was an alternate and I wasn't like mentally ready. I really didn't think I was going out. And then last minute I was called out, and it was like really just, it was all thrown out at me at once. And I adapted, obviously, but I would be a little bit more mentally prepared. You always are the second time around, no matter what. I think you just have a better sense of what to expect realistically. I would die to go back out. I would die to go back out. Yeah.
Well, I think that other fans would agree with me as well, that we would like to see you two as the fan base back out there, because I do think that I mean, making it to jury is such a huge accomplishment. And I think that to see you come back and play and feel a little bit better about yourself and just have a different kind of perspective on it all would be super fascinating. So I would love that. And again, congratulations on all you achieved, on your first run out there.
Thank
So,
you.
Tiff, I want to pivot a little bit to kind of where we're at today with Survivor. So I'm curious to start. Can you just kind of share with me maybe your general thoughts on kind of Survivor season 48 and what's been happening?
Sure. I mean, so I do follow Survivor, and I follow a lot of like just the threads just to see what people are saying and to match it with how I'm feeling. So, I hate's a bad word. I dislike a little bit, the couch mongers that are sitting there and talking about every season, because remember, these are people and they go out there and this is their dream and they are playing how they want to play. So can you really judge them for that? No, but that's what we do for reality TV. We always judge. We sit back and we judge. Oh, I would do this different. Oh, this is boring. Of course, we know they're going to win this and blah, blah, blah. But that's just the nature of Survivor. When 41 came out, and I really mean this with a lot. Everybody hated our season. Like, they were such haters. It was not good. I feel like if you go back and watch it again, it would be different, because we really didn't know what was going on. I think it was like much more entertaining than people really gave it credit for. And I also think that the extra time that they're getting is so much better, because you really see more of the players, right? You see more of what they're going through, and you kind of get to know them better. And I think that that's how Survivor evolves, is really good with that extra time on screening. I think that's excellent. Um, Season overall, I understand some people are saying it's boring. I get it. It's boring because you almost can predict the next person voted out with almost 100% certainty, right? So if you were a betting person, this is the season you want to start betting on, because of the people that are where they are now and their spot, right, in Survivor world. You're kind of looking at Eva and Joe and Kyle, Shaheen and Camilla as like a strong five at the moment, at least, right? Before some kind of chaos has to come. I feel like other people, if there were other people out there, which there aren't, would probably start to make bigger moves right now, because it's kind of going to be, it's either you or them. But with the strategy of knowing that you're a solid four and really trusting that alliance, like, it almost definitely gets you to where you want to be. So it's almost like saying to someone, if you have the choice of almost making $1 million, why wouldn't you do that? Right? Each and every one of those players at the moment, Eva she's got an arsenal, right? And she's got Joe, and he's a beast. And then you have, Kyle, who's just so likable and so smart, and secretly has this Camilla alliance, which is so, it must be like they must be not talking to each other a lot during regular hours, because to be out there and not see that those two are playing is a really good, that's a really good game. If they really don't know it, because I felt like I was in tune to everybody who was playing, right? So I don't know. That's remarkable if they're really not seeing it. And I guess they're really not seeing it. Um, so I sort of feel it's predictable, which makes it a little less fun, but I still love Survivor and I still love watching the challenges, right? And I still loved watching Camilla win because anybody could have won that. So is it super like riveting? No, I don't think it's super riveting, but I don't think it's Survivor. Like you're still watching. You all you fools that are talking about how bad it is, you're still sitting on your couch, episode 11, watching it. Like that's the truth. So, you know, how do I feel about it? I feel like, of course, I'm sitting there eating my sushi or whatever the heck I'm eating, saying, "Oh, I think I would flip on Joe right now," or wow, Mitch and Camilla and even Kyle could flip now. They could all flip and get Shaheen and work something out to like get rid of that duo, like if they had to, right? They could at least try to flush an idol, stop giving her all that power. But that could have been talked about. Hey, Eva, use your idol tonight. I think they're talking about flipping on, like, just to like make it a little bit more even playing ground, and then she wins to go to this next thing and get knowledge's power. Like, I mean, how much more can this girl have, right? So, is it predictable? Sure. Is it still Survivor? Yes, and it's still fun to watch, and I'm still going to watch it, and so is everybody else. So, like, not the most riveting season, but I wouldn't say it's terrible.
No, I think that's good.
Right?
And it's honestly interesting hearing you say all that, especially from a player perspective, because I will say, I mean, I've been watching Survivor a long time, and I kind of have been like a small hater to this season as well, just because it's
Yeah.
like you said, a lot of it's been predictable. And I think more than anything, it gets frustrating when you're like, okay, like people like Mitch and Camilla, I'm like, why are you not making more of a move? Because at the end of the day, like when we get down to these smaller numbers, you guys are gonna go.
You're
Like this
out.
four has proved that they are not gonna go against each other. So you need to do
Right.
something. And it's just so invigorating when they don't do anything.
I know it is, but you know why they don't do anything? Because they're scared. When you're out there, you're playing somewhat scared. It's too much of a gamble. Like I can make it one more day if I don't flip now, but they're not looking down the road, and that is what's so hard when you're playing Survivor. You're just kind of surviving the day, and you're not looking down the road far enough because you just want to make it one more day. And when you're almost guaranteed that if you vote this person out, you're making it one more night, you're not thinking, "Oh shit, it's going to be me tomorrow." So that's why it's the only reason why. It's because that safety is so comforting that you're too afraid to make that move. And that is how I think everybody plays differently the second time around. Like if it's not going to be me winning, like I might as well go to the wall and do as best I can. But when you're a first time player out there and you're at day 20, you're really gonna grab on to like it's annoying for us because we're like, why would you not at least try? Like, try to do something. You're not going to be here in 2 days, but to them and how it feels out there, when you walk out of that tribal council and you're like, oh, it wasn't me. It's like the best feeling in the world. Like, so that's why. And yeah, I'm a hater for that too. I'm with you on it. It's just I know what it feels like to like not have been the one that night, right? Because my name was written down before that. That it's just like you make it to the next day and you're like borrowing, stealing everything you can, right? Anybody who wants to work with you. And I agree with you. I would have made. I feel like now I would have made the move, but playing it, I don't know. I might have went one more night in safety.
For sure. Well, and
So
everyone's in their own preservation mode, so it's really hard to say. I have a few questions for you about kind of the future of Survivor. But before that, I am curious briefly, who's your prediction for the winner of this current season?
yeah. So I think I predicted early on Kyle. I think I said I think he wins it early on. Um, I was as I was watching, I started to sway a little Joe, but I think jury wise, I think Kyle is definitely a front runner. He hasn't made too many people angry. He's played the middle. I think Joe's starting to get a little bit of a bad rap around everybody. And yeah, I think I think it has to be Kyle right now. That's kind of where I'm leaning. How about you?
Yeah. I would say with who's left, probably Kyle as well. But I also would kind of
Yeah.
like to see like Camilla make some big moves here at the end and then maybe pull out the win also. I just think for me, I would prefer for it to be one of the two of them. I love Joe as like a person and his story, and I got to chat with him preseason and it was lovely. But seeing
Yeah.
the way it's played out, I'm like, it would, like you said, it'd just be so predictable. And like him and Eva have just like, but I don't know, they've also really like somehow managed to kind of take the reins over everyone, and obviously no one's like pushing against it. So that also speaks to their game a little bit. So I don't
Yeah,
know. I
for
would say
sure.
probably Kyle or Camilla, but I don't know. I guess we'll see how it plays out. But
Yeah.
okay, so
Yeah, I'm with you.
um, season 50. It's been all
Oh
the rage. I feel like people, that's all
boy.
they're talking about now in the world of Survivor. So, what are kind of your thoughts on, season 50 and having this all returner season? Because we haven't had this yet in the new era.
Yeah, I think here's the rub. Here's how I really feel. Okay. Of course, would I have loved to go out there and play? Would I love to be a person out there and playing? Of course. I have two schools of thought on this. One of them is you're putting old school with new school, right? And I kind of feel like there's this rivalry to begin with of you don't know what it's like to play 39 days, you don't know what it's like to play 26 days, like, and I feel like it kind of puts new era at a disadvantage a little bit because I don't know. I don't know why I feel that way, but I feel that way. And I feel like if you go out and you're playing this season and you're a new era, like you better start making some really good connections with those old school players. So you're going to be that lucky one or two people that those old school players kind of gravitate to. Cause I feel like once you get to merge, old school's going to go old school no matter what. So like, that's how I feel, but I could be completely wrong. Maybe that's how I justify making myself feel better if it's not me that's going out there. Like, oh shit, I wouldn't want to be on that season anyway. They're gonna eat up those new school players. Um, but it might be such old school players that it might not matter, right? Because a Sean Rector or I don't know, really old school, that it kind of could be an even playing field and maybe they'll just come together. I don't know how it's going to play out. It's interesting. I'm super jealous. Not going to lie, but I think it's going to be really interesting to see. I don't know how it's going to play out. I think everyone's hyped up for a reason. Um, who they're going to pick, I don't know even how they're going to go about that, to be honest. There's so many more seasons of old school than there is new school. And it's kind of like, how do you choose those people? uh, what puzzle are you trying to fit there? Like it's really going to be interesting to see who they actually chose finally.
Well, I cannot wait to see the cast list myself because I also think it's going to be incredibly fascinating. So we will see what happens. But Tiff, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to answer all these questions and speak to me about your Survivor journey, about where you stand now, about how
Thank
you kind of
you.
see current Survivor, future Survivor, all the things. It's so nice finally getting to speak to you 4 years after your season. So
I
best of
know.
luck into whatever's next for you, and hopefully we'll get to chat again sometime soon.
That sounds great. Thank you for having me, and make sure that if there is another season coming up, that somehow we get something going, like a campaign to
Yes.
get me back out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll start it. We'll
All
do
right.
it. Yep.
That's the deal.
Perfect.